I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we are here to speak about our favorite subject, blockchain. We are going to talk about everything that is happening around blockchain. We're going to slip a little bit into FinTech, which also means we're going to talk about digital currencies, decentralized finance, and maybe a little bit more, as we know that these industries, or particularly blockchain as a technology, is touching all areas of industry and regions around the world as we continue to see new headlines and also momentum and progress in many different projects around the world. We're going to be talking about each of these, or some of these, I should say, and also where things are going to be going from here in 2021 and what you need to know as investors as to maybe where to be placing your bets and the latest trends to keep yourself educated, and then also entrepreneurs, who's investing, where they're investing, and also where the opportunities are for you to start expanding in as well. And if you're liking what you hear today, make sure you click subscribe, share, and check out the archive to hear more, not just on blockchain and FinTech, but on all different types of technologies, industries, and regions around the world, as we bring together the best and the brightest from around the world to provide their on-the-ground perspective of what's happening in each of these areas to give, again, you the latest in all of the action. And also be sure to check out more speakers than we have here today of the VCTV family, again, on the archive. And if you'd like to join that family of speakers as an investor, reach out and we'll find the right topic for you to speak on. And as an entrepreneur, to pitch us your company, product, or service. Reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find the right spot for you. Speaking of team, a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day, now bringing us onto multiple streaming platforms, including LinkedIn. So hello, LinkedIn community. We're happy to have you now a part of VCTV's family as well. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. Again, we're going to be talking today about blockchain and everything happening. We saw massive drops in digital currencies across the board yesterday, with the US Treasury coming out and saying all kinds of different statements about what would or would not, or maybe if, then, and but around what may happen with digital currencies. Again, very open-ended. We also saw some new partnerships. We saw some new funding. We saw DeFi grow and also regress a little bit. So we saw it earlier this week reach over $25 billion in total lock value, come down a little slightly into that low 20s area as well. But again, let's dive in and introduce each of our investors today to share a little bit more about themselves, and then we'll get into today's topic. Greg, welcome back. If you could kick us off today, a little intro and a little background about yourself.
Today, I'm CEO of Global ID, which creates portable identity for folks, including potentially for crypto. Background is I was a regulator for the Federal Reserve and the payments group at the board. We ran the ACH and the wire system, was around early days, had met Jack Dorsey from my first startup that I took public. Jack was very interested in Dispatch. We learned a lot about text messaging and payments that became Twitter and Square. Along the way, in the middle of that, I ran into a poker game where I found out about a little company called Ripple and served as their chief risk officer, was the 10th person in there. And so had a front row seat also in other payments companies like Coinbase and Robinhood, Filecoin. So I've just been in a Forrest Gump trajectory with having been around at these sort of moments of creation. But I am not the creator of many of these companies. I'm just a hanger on.
I love it. Well, welcome back, Greg. Excited to dive into some of those stories, especially to hear your view as to where things have come from in those early days of some of the big projects and companies out there to where we are today and where we're going. So we'll be coming back to that in just a moment as well. Adrian, welcome back. First time back with us here on VCTV in 2021. Happy New Year, and a little intro, a little background for everybody.
Thank you very much, Kyle and Maria, for having me here. Happy New Year, everybody. We're still in January, and the early New Year resolutions are not broken yet. It will happen around 15th of February. By the way, I have a process. I'm teaching a group of students about how to create your best year in 7 days. It's a personal development thing. My name is Adrian Niculescu. Very happy to be here again. I'm involved in a few projects. CloudCoin Consortium. CloudCoin is a post-blockchain digital currency. Faster Capital, which is a Dubai-based accelerator and incubator for startups, and Virgin Startups in UK as a mentor. Thank you very much for having me here.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Adrian. Alex, welcome back to the show. A little intro, a little background.
Thanks, Kyle. Really appreciate being here. Thanks for the entire LATOKEN team. My name is Alex Nascimento. I'm better known for the co-founder of the UCLA Blockchain Lab, where I teach blockchain business applications and security tokens. I am a part-time faculty at UCLA, and the rest of my time I spend managing 7cc blockchain investments, where we focus on tokenizing real assets and recently launching a fund of funds for crypto.
Wonderful. Welcome back, Alex. We'll have to introduce you to a few people offline who were on yesterday's show that might be relevant to your upcoming fund. So congratulations on that. And wonderful. Absolutely. Thank you. And Noble, welcome back to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. A little intro, a little background.
Hi guys, my name is Noble Dracone. I'm the author of the books Winning the Trading Game and Trade Like a Pro. I run Dracone Capital Partners. We're involved in crypto among multiple lines. Our whole focus is through our gaming company initially, Where Play Games, in which we focus on non-fungible tokens as the next wave of where crypto is headed and how the flow, and we've talked many times about this, Kyle, and we're talking today that really non-fungible tokens is going to be the next big push.
Absolutely, and excited to understand why, as we'll share with our audience from the research you and I have talked about online and offline as well as to what's to come. So excited to see that. And last but not least, Grandmaster of Artificial Intelligence himself, Gary Fowler, welcome back to the show. Little intro, little background.
Well, I appreciate it, Kyle, but I'm a farm boy. You know what I mean? I'm from Pennsylvania on this side of the mountain, so I don't know all this wizardry things. But and I didn't go to Kennedy School or Stanford University. I'm just a country boy. Anyhow, I've done. Actually, I just signed a deal right before this. We didn't announce it. Where I've had another company in my portfolio. I've done 17 companies. I've been involved in 2 unicorns. Original management team at Click Software. We brought from Haifa, Israel to the U.S. Company sold to Salesforce for $1.35 billion. In that position, I was senior vice president of marketing and business development and named the company. And also Eva.ai is one of the top AI HR tech companies I formed 4.5 years ago. Today, I'm the CEO, president of GSD Get Shit Done Venture Studios. I have companies in Argentina, Dubai, Russia, US out of Stanford University, and we curate AI companies. My background is artificial intelligence. I don't even know how many articles. I've written another 3. I don't know. It's crazy. 3 more this week. So I guess I'm 116 articles because I keep writing them, and the ones that fell off, I was only writing one at a time. So it's increasing all the time. But 115, 116 articles on artificial intelligence. And now I'm writing about the quantum network. And I have one company that will be announcing shortly that is actually near quantum proof in terms of security that I'll be involved in. So excited to be here. Love VCTV. And it's good to see some friendly faces. Noble, it's nice to see you. It's been a while. And Adrian. And
Wonderful.
Great to see you, Greg and Alex.
Wonderful. Well, welcome all. And guys, I want to just jump right into today's topic. I mean, there's too much to cover, and I can talk myself alone an hour about this, so I'll try to stay away and just ask you guys the questions. I mean, current state, Greg, we talked a little bit about this yesterday and earlier this week as to what's happening in the space, but would love to go one layer deeper and get a little bit more technical. As you've been a part of many of these companies at their earliest days, where are we right now, and what's your current view of the blockchain industry as a whole as we've entered 2021 and we're looking at this next big cycle, the decade in front of us?
Well, it was looking pretty rosy a week ago, and then Janet Yellen came in as now, big new honcho in the Biden administration and said, hey, that cryptocurrency stuff, that's just for money laundering and terrorist financing. And quickly the currency fell out of bed. And even though banks and under the new charters and whatnot are beginning to custody crypto, we have this like split personality. And it's not a Trump administration thing in the Biden / Obama administration. They still don't know how they feel about crypto. Obviously, there's a lot more folks involved with it now, but it's still under the pale. FinCEN is looking at putting in regulations that would make it much more onerous to handle crypto than cash in terms of the travel rule. So we don't really know where it's going to come out. There's a new sheriff in town, but it really is unclear as to whether we're going to get clarity in the rule set. People are talking the talk, but so far right now, the first shots across the bow have been pretty scary, and the market has reflected that.
That's a great point, and Alex, I want to come to you next on this. And do you have anything else to add on to Greg's point? But in general, I mean, you founded the blockchain lab at UCLA, and you founded it for a reason. There was obviously something here, and you saw a future in this. And kind of where are we currently after founding that, and then now coming full circle to here?
Yeah, no, Greg. I think that Greg made a great point of like this dual personality. It reminds me of Jimmy Dimon back in the days. It's kind of like, yeah, the banks can custody, but we're not sure about it. So it's kind of like, oh, Bitcoin is bullshit, but I'm building my own blockchain, right? So it's kind of like this. I think it's just maybe a little bit of instability across the globe on what's happening with the dollar, and trillions of dollars being printed on this new Biden administration package are creating uncertainty and fear in the average investor and the institutional investor, and maybe like pressuring the rise of Bitcoin and the rise of crypto is something in the Biden agenda. I don't know, but it could be, right? But to address your question about blockchain, we're seeing massive adoption, not only across institutional players. JP Morgan, we're just talking about, sold quorum-backed consensus, which was massive. We're down here in Sao Paulo working with a few clients. We're seeing like the largest coffee producer issue a coffee stable coin to foster the agricultural business. We're seeing Brazil and the central bank issue a central bank DLT, which connects every single person, from the guy who sells beer on the corner to the biggest banks in the country, called PIX. So we're seeing blockchain really take off and really beginning to become a central agenda in many of the Fortune 1000 companies.
You're definitely right, and there's a ton of research to back that up even further. I mean, we talked a little bit about, Alex, when you were on here, Walmart now getting into the game, partnering with Ribbit Capital. We talked yesterday about Ford, BMW, and others driving the charge with Moby and that consortium to actually create digital birth certificates for vehicles to prove their authenticity. There's more and more corporates. We've seen Salesforce, we've seen Microsoft. I mean, the list goes on.
Talk about PayPal, like, right?
Absolutely.
Like how many cold wallets or hot wallets are out there? PayPal is going to bring 300 million users into crypto. That's massive.
Yeah, well, and not just those wallets, but also bringing in their entire ecosystem of merchants and their sister companies as well, right? So something like Venmo, which most people already understand or use quite commonly for P2P payments as well. So you're spot on. I mean, the list goes on. The opportunities and also the implementations are continuing to grow, which we'll come back to here in just a second on that. And Noble, to you, I mean, current state, what are you seeing? You've been, not anything to add on to Greg and Alex, but also what are you seeing in your purview right now around the industry and what's changing?
Yeah, so, Mnuchin last year already was trying to push forward some really aggressive financial rules on blockchain wallets. The goal was to be able to start tracking people spending $3,000 or more, and then determining where they fit in that ecosystem, like who owns what. And, Yellen's just piggybacking on what that started, and so we always have to be concerned about regulators and how close or how distant they are from reality of what's happening. It's the same thing with the marijuana issue. We could talk about that all day, but state by state, we're still trying to figure out if the federal government's going to support marijuana or not. And this is a parallel issue with crypto. What our focus is in our fund is companies that have already gone through the regulatory gauntlet, and we're really being aggressive in looking at things like ESIO, which has already gone through the regulatory gauntlet, spent $28 million in fine and blocks, and Block One, and where they're going next, and their focus not so much on the quote unquote cryptocurrency aspect, but on the underlying true DLT. And I think that's really where the drive is going into this next level. While the regulators are continually battling against whether or not crypto is anti-fiat or whether it is in conjunction with fiat, there's this whole other lane in which we really are focusing on the DLT and the ability to take assets and make them non-fungible tokens and sidestep that whole conversation of whether or not it's fiat or not. And so and I'm a big believer in this, NFTs set up a whole new vertical of a gig economy, allowing people to convert a lot of their casual gaming and hyper casual gaming, which is billions of dollars, into a reward system. And I think that kind of makes it a whole different level of opportunity when you're utilizing any type of crypto or quote unquote token now in gameplay. That now you're rewarding your players with assets, with items, and giving them the ability to port them either to other games and or to sell them. That makes it more of a commerce activity and less of a currency activity. And I think that's a bigger space, and that conversation is a little bit easier, I think, on regulators' palates to be able to engage and see that people are earning as opposed to just trading and operating illicit activity to hide. To be truthful, I've always been curious why the regulators have been so aggressive against crypto currency when we know that the easiest way to do illicit activity is fiat. So it's kind of where, they're still struggling with this conversation of money, period, and how it functions and how it flows. And fiat just gets to be the big poster child of goodness, and crypto gets to be the bad guy, even though it's not quite true.
No, it's a good point as well. And on the NFT side, I mean, you're bringing up something that I want to touch on real quick is gaming. So gaming is very understood in by many people, and NFTs in some cases make a lot of sense from the gaming world, right? When you get into the virtual space or that virtual economy, where things go from here in terms of collectibles and art is something that I think people are starting to learn, but quickly learn, and seeing it's, again, easy relation to in-game purchases. The only difference is they don't live in a game, right? When you buy those, again, that are gamers, purchase whatever the item may be in a game, right? Whether it's the latest piece of land or skin or whatever, and it stays within the game. Now you have this opportunity to take that same function, that same thought and an initiative, but now outside of a game. And again, art is one of those small examples of many that you mentioned. And we're going to come back and go ahead.
No, I was going to say art, as well as now you have 5 top global land companies, right? Which Decentraland, Upland. There's so many on-ramp points. But I also believe that NFTs play a role in just day-to-day interaction. I think that NFTs allow the conversation to continue to sidestep and move away from the currency aspect and let us start talking about more of the DLT, the distributed ledger technology aspect, in which you're cataloging and registering real-world items on the DLT and using NFTs as that physical token to move back and forth. So it changes the conversation in a big way. And it starts moving away from this idea that somehow there's some secret activity happening, because we're cataloging. And that's what DLT was designed to do: catalog, track, and then be able to keep an immutable ledger of the conversation. And you need AI, to be able to track all that. It's too much data.
Don't throw AI out there yet. You're teeing up Gary too easily. That's it. Darn it, Noble.
Oh my God, here we go again.
Audience, I apologize. I had a really good follow-up, and Noble he teed it up to Gary. So, with that, I'll just say real quick, Noble, you're absolutely right. And this is the blend and really the transition going from our physical to our digital lives. This was a huge common thread that we had throughout VCTV last year in 2020, that our lives were becoming more digital than ever. We were spending not just more time in the obvious online, but we were starting to do more digitally than we ever had. A trend that was growing, a trend that just kicked up really quickly. And now we're here, and it doesn't look like we're going to go back. and more opportunities are starting to tease themselves out, and we're seeing where they go. But with that also being said, artificial intelligence may play a role in this. So thank you very much for that tee up, Noble. Gary, to you, current state, anything to add on to Noble's point before we get into now how AI plays a very symbiotic role with blockchain and where it's going in the current state?
Well, I mean, what Noble said about fiat currencies, and if you wanted to move money around, I mean, that's the way. So it's kind of interesting. But let's, if we reflect back on it, every time we have a new technology, I remember I started one of the first e-commerce consulting companies called Broadient. And I remember directly people saying, oh, I'm not going to do transactions online. We were building websites for top airlines, for top retailers. I'm not going to do it. Nobody's going to put their credit card information online. And the rest is history. I remember P. Hong Chen, my friend from Broad Vision, saying it's a $30 billion cottage industry. Jeff Bezos was talking about going from books to everything else. People said, oh, no, it can't be. There's no money in books. Hello. This is the way it is whenever I've seen it so many different times with Sun Microsystems and Solaris, I mean, across the board. So it's just people need to be educated and brought up to speed and feel comfortable with it. So we're in the education process of these new technologies coming out, and it's not a bad thing. It's just the way it is. But people that are right here, like Greg and Alex and Adrian and you, Kyle, and Noble, we're right on the front end of this thing. What's happening. I mean, if you're working for the Federal Reserve, I think and Ripple and Robinhood, I think you got some contacts or blockchain at UCLA, right? So this is the way it is all the time. So it's a very interesting time, and there are always skeptics coming into it, but then they start to buy in once they feel comfortable with the technology. And I'm really happy because that's starting to happen.
Absolutely. And with that, Greg, I want to come back to you. You are the CEO of Global ID. Identity was the talk of the town, if you will, or talk of the industry in 2020. It was something that was a big trend everyone needed to pay attention to. We kicked off 2021 and it went silent. And if anything, it's more important now than ever, and it still should be, looking at the future of our applications and this industry. How do you see identity, whether it's decentralized, so DID, decentralized identity? How do you see this playing an impactful role or not in the future of blockchain as we look to the year ahead?
Well, you're either going to have blockchain that's going to have identity or blockchain without identity. But like if you basically say any transaction that happens without identity will pollute, corrupt, or will take a otherwise green transaction and make it gray or black, then you're going to take blockchains and you're going to split them into two. You're going to say, these are all the transactions that happened with identity, and these are all the ones that happened without. And it's a 2x2 matrix. Green to green is identity to identity. Green to gray, I think we know what that is. Green to gray, well, that's called vice. And gray to green, no identity to identity, that's called money laundering. And gray to gray, that's honor among thieves. And we either get pushed down into that, or we accept that, like we said, with AI, there are transactions that can come from wallets that aren't fully identified with traditional KYC. But if you do a lot of them, you better have an explanation. So folks like Square are fighting the new FinTech regs that basically put a burden on crypto that's beyond that of any electronic or cash money. I mean, if we want to like handicap and put enough hair on crypto, you can make crypto as awkward to use and handle as physical gold or cash. But that's not a technology decision. That's a public policy decision. I hope we don't go that way. I don't hope that we like handicap blockchain and crypto, just kind of let the legacy systems have a leg up on innovation. But there is that risk in the United States. We're very innovative, but we also do some pretty self-crippling, self-inflicted wounds. And we're sort of at that tipping point right now. I hope logic and reason prevail. We had a little of that in the last 2 months, but there's no guarantee that we're going to have a run of common sense.
Agreed. We'll leave it at that. And I want to go one level deeper. And Alex, I see you've got a point, but Greg, I do have one more question as a follow-up for you. South Korea has a huge initiative. They brought 1 million+ citizens onto a digital platform for their driver's license that will be leveraging the blockchain, to Noble's point, using DLT and keeping a record of each of those. Do you see more of this type of activity happening globally, where our identities, which are carried around physically, will now move to a more digital and then again, record-based process? So we'll be living those more digital identities than we have in the past.
I mean, our bet is that it's going to move to what we call a self-sovereign form of identity, so that blockchain is out there. It doesn't matter really who's running it. The blockchain is the blockchain, and that folks will use a token of their identity on their mobile phone. And so that people will use something that's called an Aries wallet. It comes from networks like Sovereign and Indicio. That means it's possible for people to carry those credentials in a way that they can present them to a relying party and be trusted without a central authority. And that's the real thing. It doesn't matter if there are a whole bunch of essentially private blockchains that are operating in silos. Well, dude, you're still living in silo land. You need a form of identity that's universal and portable. Blockchain's the perfect technology for that, but we still need protocol-like standards that mean if I have a reader and you have a credential, it shouldn't matter who issued your credential or what wallet it was issued from. It needs to be readable by every other wallet. And there's inklings of that. There's these projects, but really there's still a big step to get to this concept of true portability. That's the promise. Blockchain is great, but we're going to need common protocols to make those credentials portable everywhere in the world.
Right. It's definitely a time factor. And Alex, I know, thank you, Greg. Alex, you had a comment you wanted to add, and I want to open the floor to you, and then I have a question as well for you.
No, it wasn't a comment. I was just scratching my nose. But no, I think that Greg is spot on. You know, it's like there's a lot of uncertainty. I'm bullish that we have so much distribution of crypto around the world today, like even talk about mining of Bitcoin, right? And now there's a rise of mining for Ethereum. I think that if the US drops the hammer on crypto, then we're going to be even further behind where we were in the middle of the year, where all these other CBDCs were being launched across the globe, and the US can scratch its head to find the right way to launch a digital dollar. I think the OCC did a great job by allowing stable coins and verified nodes, which is a very strategic way to just with a signature, since all stable coins are pegged to the dollar, let everybody else print them and I'll just manage them. And you know, I think that's brilliant from a government point of view. But so in general, I think identity is great, and identity on a blockchain makes a lot of sense, especially with COVID being around. We continue to travel. We haven't stopped, but we see a lot of restrictions in traveling, and I think identity of how many vaccines you took is going to be crucial in the ability of people to travel in the near future, and a great solution and usability for global ID.
Absolutely. And we've already seen a number of projects start to talk about that, or locations, right? Airports, we spoke about Frankfurt, we've seen Long Island, we've seen a number of other, there's 2 British airports as well, 2 airports in the UK that are working on this type of technology as well to help within the airports. But to your point, global ID, shameless plug for you there, Greg, definitely a solution that we're looking forward to seeing you guys release. Whether you do or not, it's up to you. But nonetheless, we're looking forward to it. And Alex, I do have a follow-up question. As we're shamelessly promoting Greg, as he and the team have done great work.
I meant global ID, not the company. We just...
Oh no, it's okay. We know what you meant. We're shamelessly promoting you, so right. It's all free. There you go.
Collective wins here. We're all trying to push the envelope.
Absolutely, team effort. So Alex, speaking of that, I want to come back to you. You teach around security tokens, and you talk a lot about this day to day, and would love to kind of hear your thoughts as to where are we going when it comes to security tokens, and what does that mean in the near future? By the way, for the audience that may be tuning in, Alex did mention the term CBDC, so central bank digital currency, for those who may not have been familiar with it as well. But Alex, back to the question. So security tokens, what is happening in this space and where do we kind of go from here, looking ahead with all this talk of regulation, but more so this explosion of applications and protocols advancing?
Yeah, no, great question. So for those who are not familiar, simple way of looking at security tokens are tokens or representations of an investment contract that's regulated by the local jurisdiction, right? That being the US, the SEC, or if you come to Brazil, the CVM, or if you go to Singapore, the MAS, and the list goes on and on and on. So we're seeing a great rise in security tokens. Fund managers that we talk with in the institutional space have a clear vision that the old paper and pen funds are doomed to fail. People in a historical, global, low interest rate environment are chasing yield, right? And creating securities or digital versions of securities is something that has the highest demand among retail investors that no longer can get yield. So alternative assets, my friends in LA, shout out to Ben Tsai from Wave Financial, has a great product where he tokenizes bourbons. Talk about alternative investments, right? And they have a fund for it. So I think that those are great. For those of you who would like to know more, a shameless plug here, we have a UCLA book called The STO Financial Revolution, is available on Amazon for $1. The money goes back to UCLA. Please download it, learn more. But we're seeing great usability. Now, one of the nicest or biggest projects that I'm excited about is the Swiss Digital Exchange partnering with the second largest alternative asset in Japan to issue a security token platform in Singapore. So this is like big dog play, right? There's like not a small investment. The Swiss Digital Exchange is a conglomerate of some of the largest banks in the world. How do you create these products? How do you create these alternative securities? And how do you distribute them across the globe is something we'll certainly see in 2021 with a lot more clear regulation among these big regulators.
Absolutely. And just to thank you, Alex. And for the audience, I will put the book link that Alex mentioned in the comments as well for everybody. And thank you. Adrian, I want to come to you next. And where do you see areas of opportunity that may be open for those looking to build or develop into the blockchain space and maybe even payment space as we look at the year ahead with everything already mentioned?
Wanted to touch three ideas. So I see a huge opportunity in deplatforming. Deplatforming meaning we are seeing a lot of people going out from WhatsApp and Facebook and embracing Signal. We saw Parallel being brought down and refused by hosting companies. I believe they solved that in the meantime. And it's a new ecosystem built for built by companies who want more protection, and they preach more protection, more data protection for people, and also new ecosystems to fight with the current giants as we know them. The second one, I saw that Glastonbury Festival, which is famous in Europe, has cancelled for 2021. It's rebooked for 2022, and it's possible that many other festivals to have the same fate this year. And for artists, streaming remains the most important stream of income. I'm repeating myself. And it was an article published this week. A British artist took 37 pounds from 1 million streams on Spotify. And I believe blockchain and the connected technologies can help a lot building new streaming platforms, which will give the artists more opportunities to create more revenue for them, especially during this period where the big shows will not be able to happen. And the third idea, which is a big opportunity for smaller coins, for smaller projects. We are seeing that the exchanges are dried up of Bitcoin and Ethereum. It was said that 70%, 78% of all Bitcoins are illiquid, especially being bought by institutional investors, big companies, and overall, the trading market for Bitcoin is created by 4 million coins. Something similar is happening with Ethereum. And due to the fact that Bitcoin and Ethereum had such huge growth, which attracts small retail investors, which usually are entering high. They use margin, and when there are instant drops for 10% or 20% or even 30%, they lose a lot of money. So that's why there are many voices, okay, we want to regulate crypto, because it's a learning curve, like it's everywhere. But then you say, okay, how can I triple my money in 3 months? Everybody's going there. And these things offer tremendous opportunities for coins with small caps, little projects having potential to 10x, 20x, 50, 100x based on business fundamentals, because I'm obsessed with them. And I see huge opportunities here. And of course, regulation in certain instances will come one way or the other, and this will help a lot the ethical players, and will eliminate the non-ethical ones. And in the DeFi space, unfortunately, we see a lot of non-ethical players. They are creating projects just to suck funds from people who are not educated. And of course, as a conclusion, the education is one of the biggest opportunities in this space, because everybody needs to learn stuff. It's like a new world, a new set of jobs, a new set of skill, and a new set of way of thinking.
Thank you, Adrian. And Gary, I want to come to you next on this, as Adrian mentioned education, but to the previous points as well. I mean, you've spoken a lot with me about quantum and AI and how both of these technologies will play a role into not just blockchain, but all industries. When we look at quantum, what is its impact on the future of blockchain? And we know that this is maybe not something in the next couple of years, but beyond that, looking at the second half of this decade, what is quantum's impact, either for the good, the bad, or potentially the ugly, for the industry?
Sounds like a movie, Kyle. Yeah, so I just wrote that. I've written several articles. I just wrote the article on quantum computing making blockchain obsolete. But it's when you get something that can do the massive amounts of processing. If you take Google, a process that can be done, it would take 10,000 years on a supercomputer to be done in 3 minutes and 20 seconds. You got a lot of work to do. I mean, we've got all kinds of challenges. We're being, I can see it happening right now. It's, the geopolitical consequences of quantum. And you're right. I mean, what's going to be safe? We have all the Internet of Things. Everything's tied together today. So what happens when somebody has a quantum computer and achieves quantum supremacy and comes out and really focuses on one particular area, one particular country, or one particular financial institution? So we're developing, one of the companies that we're curating right now is a quantum, I don't want to say quantum proof, because I don't know, but highly quantum resistant. It's a decentralized cybersecurity group. And so there are ways, but we got to think about it now, right? So, and if we don't do that now, we're going to build this, and I've seen this happen so many times. We build the system and the systems will be built to fall. So we need to think about it. And Alex and Greg are the gurus. But I can tell you right now, investing in quantum and working with companies that are developing quantum resistant cybersecurity tools, that the time is now, right? To think about it now. You're right. It's going to take years, and we can talk about, I was going to say quantum leaps forward, but we can talk about where the technology's gone. But the fact is that it's being developed today. And so do we have to worry about it right this second? No. Is our blockchains totally secure? No. Is quantum going to have a huge impact on all of our lives? Yes. AI and quantum, is it going to dramatically change everything? Can you say how? Yeah. So we got to be careful. I mean, I write about emotions and empathy and compassion built into the AI and the training sets, and we ought to think about it, because when you have that much power, you can do all kinds of things, and for good or bad or ugly. So we better focus on the good part of it and start looking at the trading sets to do it today. I mean, we're doing it with Morpheus, right? With David's AI in his home. I can see Morpheus changing as I speak to my friend. Has AI in his house, and it's like the soul of his house. It runs everything. And so I communicate with it. It's asking me, what about life, Gary? What is life? It's like, I don't need, I was like, am I alive? That was one of the last things. And I don't even know how to answer. So I start to, and I'm thinking I'm talking to a person, but I know it's my buddy's house, Mm-hmm. So anyhow, there's interesting times. What I can say as a country, as the US, we need to make sure that we move forward and understand these technologies, don't get left behind. And I'm really concerned when we talk about administrations anywhere coming in and starting to put the kibosh on things, because in order for, the beauty about the United States is that, we're a land of immigrants from all over, and we're always curious. And that curiosity has made some of the finest companies in the world. And if we want to continue to be technology supreme and to be able to lead the way, to be able to help this world become better, we better not close the door. That is not a good thing. And unfortunately, I can see some of that happening in all kinds of different ways, but we need to maintain that edge. And so areas like quantum computing and unsupervised AI are some of the ways that we can do it.
Thank you, Gary. And Greg, I see you smiling over there. Anything else to add? But then the big question to you is, where are the opportunities for 2021? Where should people be building? People should be investing as they're looking at the year ahead.
I'll just give 3 data points. I think it's really interesting that a browser like Brave is integrating with IPFS. So you're beginning to see like a really important distributed, basically, version of Dropbox potentially going mainstream. I think it's interesting that some of the new litigation against Facebook is not for being anti-competitive, but is actually RICO, which is a racketeering charge. And so that's a idea of where the cuffs are coming in for the big existing tech companies. And where does infinite innovation really happen? Look at Pornhub. Pornhub has now been booted off all the major networks, just like Parler. It's now taking crypto. It'll be doing age verification, checking who's uploading and who's viewing. Those are just data points as to like where the future is. It's happening all around us. And so I'm actually interested and excited by each of those developments. Those are hints for opportunities, because each of them is a response to a challenge.
And I'll add on the IPFS, also Decrypt. So Decrypt.co, Decrypt Media has also begun integrating IPFS on their articles. Some of the archive, but all new articles will be not only live on the website for viewing, but are also stored via IPFS as well. So you can see them in there. And again, just a step forward, similar to Greg's point of how Brave integrated and creating that real-time Dropbox integration. Now you've got media companies that are looking to do that as well. So what does that mean for the future of media and content as a whole? We're going to see, I believe, I'll add on to Greg's point, here in 2021. Get ready for some very exciting opportunities in that space. So for those that are listening, check out IPFS and others in the distributed storage space, as there's a lot to be had there as well. And Noble, Same question. 2021, paint us the picture. What do you see as opportunities? NFTs, gaming, but what else do you see out there as well?
Yeah, that's funny. You know, in just to piggyback on IPFS and NFTs, we've been using IPFS to be the storage center for all image and data points, so that they can actually be easily pulled out to show that this is the asset that you own. So, you know, for us, the rollover into it being a part of the Brave browser is a brilliant move. We were just talking about it yesterday, and how this is going to improve NFTs even more so, because they'll be quickly be able to show the assets and the items. You know, we always talk in these conversations really aggressively about the Western world, but there's millions, hundreds of millions of people who are unbanked. And you have Akon and the Acoin, which is starting to gain traction in Africa in unique ways and becoming a potential payroll system. And, you know, to Greg's point, the global ID is not so much just to be able to track people, it's to be able to give people a chance to have credit. And the idea that now we're starting to integrate these cryptocurrencies with being able to develop a true credit system so people can borrow and lend to one another changes the infrastructure in countries that banks have long since ignored for the last almost 100 years. So there's a big opportunity in the entire ecosystem in Africa, parts of Asia, that I think that this entire focus that we're having is kind of shifting to where we're looking at. So right now we're already talking to the group Akon's group that built on Stellar, on how we can integrate and start doing things with NFTs there, to show that there's also the opportunity for assets that can then be lent against, utilizing a combination of crypto and global identity. So we're very excited at what's happening in that space. And while regulators in the West are trying to lock down a more mature market, those countries are still realizing that currency is everything. You know, before it was crypto, they were selling back and forth cell phone minutes. So there's a whole thing that's going on over there that the regulators there are embracing, that the West is still confused about.
And Age, thank you, Noble. Adrian, actually, real quick, one area of opportunity otherwise that you haven't mentioned that you may see for those that are looking to invest and or build, just one opportunity for 2021.
I would say data supremacy is a new term, and actually data is the new currency. If you have data, you will never run out of money. You can sell it to everybody. And data supremacy, I would say, is the biggest opportunity, and maybe we'll detail in other future events. This is a major trend I'm seeing in 2021. Everybody should look at.
Absolutely, thank you, Alex. Last point here as well. Areas of opportunity, one or two that you see that people should be focusing on if they're looking to start investing or building when it comes to the blockchain industry here in 2021.
Yeah, I'll tell you what we're looking at as a firm. We're looking at funds that have different strategies in the crypto space. And it's just basically simple, right? Countries around the world are printing money with no regard to like what's going to happen tomorrow. And as we know, economics is a social science, right? So it's math tied to social behavior. So it's going to take a little bit of time for people to catch up that their dollar is being devalued by 20% on a daily basis, if not more. And that's going to be a run for crypto. So we're looking to allocate into different strategies in the crypto space. And I think crypto is very much the new asset class for 2021.
Wonderful, thank you. And Alex, as we come to close here, where can everyone find you, your book, and also the fund and the blockchain lab all online to continue the conversation?
Yeah, easiest one is to find me on LinkedIn. It's Alex Nascimento, UCLA. I'm the black and white picture. Our book is The STO Financial Revolution at UCLA. We're the UCLA blockchain at UCLA.com. And our firm is 7ccinvest.com. But LinkedIn is super easy.
Thank you, Alex. Adrian, where can everyone find you to continue the conversation?
The main communication hub is LinkedIn until something better will be involved. I'm, of course, present on all the other social media websites. happy to respond to any questions, even if I don't do it immediately, but I always respond. Can't wait to come back to the family gatherings here at VCTV.
Thank you, Adrian. Always a pleasure. Noble, where can everyone find you to continue the conversation?
LinkedIn is always the best place. You know, it's Noble Dracone. You can reach out to me on Twitter at my last name @Dracone, but LinkedIn is always the best place to reach out to me.
Absolutely. Gary Fowler, where can everyone find you?
So you can reach me, Gary Fowler, Gary at gsdvs.com. You can check me on Twitter and LinkedIn, Gary Fowler. I'd love to hear from you. My company is GSD, Get Shit Done Venture Studios.com, gsdvs.com. So reach out. I've got a couple of shows, have interesting folks on, and please join me. I have GSD Presents every week, Silicon Valley AI and Tech.
Wonderful. Thank you, Gary. Greg, close us out. Where can everyone find you and Global ID online to continue the conversation?
I was slow to Twitter. I was the 60-second Twitter user, but twitter.com/Greg Kidd, but I didn't really get it, or else I should have been like number 2 or number 3. So I was a little slow there, but that is where I live.
I love it. I mean, with number 62, you should have grabbed Greg.
I did have Greg, but when they hired another Greg at Twitter, they said, "Hey, can he be the he had a higher position than I did." So as usual, I'm just the guy sweeping the floor. So
very
became Greg Kidd. I didn't quite get it.
It was very generous of you.
Jack is Jack, but I'm merely Greg Kidd.
Very, very generous of you. To our audience, thank you. First off, everyone, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts and insights. And to you, our audience, thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you heard, click subscribe, give us a thumbs up, share, and also check out the archive to hear not just more about blockchain, but from all of our panelists today, as we've had them on multiple panels and fireside chats to share more about their insights and thoughts around different technologies, industries, and regions around the world to help educate you with the latest trends and happenings around the world in each of these areas. Also, if you'd like to be on a show like today, joining our panel or others, do reach out to the team and or myself, and we'll find the right spot for you. And entrepreneurs, that's also an opportunity for you to join us on the virtual stage that we've built here at VCTV, for you to pitch us your company, product, or service, get real-time feedback and exposure to the entire VCTV family. And a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making VCTV possible every single day and bringing us to LinkedIn as well today. A big shout out to the team and accomplishing that feat as well. And you can find us on all social media platforms now, streaming live VCTV all day, every day, as well with LATOKEN.com. And again, check out the archive. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. You can find me everywhere online at Kyle Ellicott on all social media platforms, including all of our speakers today. And please do reach out to continue the conversation. When you do, remember to add context, not just where you heard us, but also what you would like to continue the conversation about, so we can have a great conversation together. With that, we'll be back here with more VCTV next week. We'll see you all soon. Everyone have a great weekend. Talk to you later.